Whether it's the regular season or the off-season, we have you covered as we give you the best Tennessee Titans and NFL news and insight that a fan could ask for. You're watching the Titan Upload Network.
Watching the Power Hour with your hosts, Michael Bishop and Tyler Staggs.
The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and as always, thank you for joining us on this fine Monday evening. Training camp is rolling right along, and we are not too far from preseason football. In fact, we are a week away from joint practices with the San Francisco 49ers and eventually the first preseason game of the year, which will be the following Thursday. But we have got a lot to talk about tonight because joining us once again, he's feeling 100% better. We got him off the IR after last week. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get him on the show, but we got him now, so no worries right there. Of course, I'm talking about my partner in crime, Tyler Staggs. As always, Tyler, happy Monday to you. We know you're feeling a little bit better, but still on the mend. But gotta ask, everything okay?
Hey, yeah, happy Monday to you as well. And yeah, things are all right. I don't know. First week of training camp, banged up a little bit. Had to be on the PUP list last week, unfortunately, but feeling a little bit better this week, so back on the good side here.
Well, it's definitely great having you back, and of course, it apparently looks like that once again we've just matched wardrobes because somehow we keep doing this. I don't know how it is. We definitely need to just continue like texting to make sure we don't do this trend because it seems to happen a lot between you and me. We're just too in sync.
Oh, we are. The one bright side, different hats. I mean, we got that going for us at least.
I mean, we'll go with that. I guess that's about the best we can do tonight. But regardless, we have so much to talk about, man, and I don't want to waste too much time because honestly, there's just so much good stuff to talk about tonight. Camp is in full swing, and everybody has some opinions about something, especially after today with it being the first full padded practice. So let's jump into the first segment, man. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Jumping into the first segment, as always, with my partner, Tyler Staggs, and of course, myself, Michael Bishop of the Power Hour. And let's hit segment number one as we roll right along.
And here's the kick.
Well, all right, Tyler, let's start with this because I think it's the most obvious place right here. Cam Ward apparently had, I'd say, a mixed bag kind of day. I don't think it was terrible by any stretch of the imagination, but I also don't think that it's anything that was like just mind-bogglingly, just insanely good. So coming off just today of the first full padded practice, I mean, what was your takeaway from Cam Ward's contributions of today? I mean, there's definitely some good to talk about, but there's definitely some bad to talk about as well. So let's start with the bad.
The bad, obviously the two interceptions that he threw today, which were ultimately kind of not the exact same play, but it's him rolling out to his right, throwing back across his body into the middle of the field. And, Amani Hooker got him on the first interception. And I really like how Robert Saleh broke down these plays in the fact of, last year we were able to see Cam throw back across his body more. And I saw where some people made some great points about how more of the ones that he did, it was a different type of throw. Yes, it was across his body, but you think of his first touchdown pass to Alec Manor, it was more of that rainbow ball that was putting it to a spot for Ellick to go to. And then another one that was mentioned, like the Xavier Restrepo catch last year, where he was able to work towards open space and Cam fired it to him. But this first play, it was more of a lot of bodies in there. Cam tried to force it to Wandale Robinson, and Amani Hooker read it like a book, jumped in front of it, picked it off. And then this second interception came, like I said, on a similar play, Cam rolling out to his right. And this is where I appreciate Robert Saleh breaking it down even more. He really said this one wasn't as much a bad throw by Cam or a bad decision by Cam, but more of an elite play by Jermaine Johnson for dropping back there, knowing where that check down was, and guarding it. And he even said that, most of the time that check down is going to be open. Like, you're not always going to get that. So the second one, a little bit more of an elite play by Johnson from his defensive end spot. The first one, all right, Cam, let's kind of learn from it. Either way, it's early in training camp. If he's going to try these things, I would rather him try it now and be like, okay, probably not going to get away with that one.
Yeah, and let's move on to the defensive line, because I think, especially the way things kind of played out today, it just seemed like they just didn't have the juice today. And it definitely didn't sit well with defensive line coach Aaron Whitecotton, because he made it known that he was not happy with their situation going in to that certain practice, even before they got started. These guys seemed to did their fair share of push-ups today, Tyler. So, I mean, what would you contribute that to? Do you think it was just one of those days where it's just the guys were just not showing the energy that they needed to be on, especially a day where it's so important in the first practice of padded practices?
I think it maybe what it comes back to a little bit more is, and I think this was something else that Robert Saleh mentioned, like going back to like Saturday, even before these padded practices kicked off, is usually the first couple of days are kind of not as explosive, like play wise. So I just wonder if it was more of, yes, these guys have been out there in the heat in practice last week, but you throw those pads on, you get a little bit more weight added to you, a little bit more like, you can suit your pads to you how you want them to still have the movement that you need, but it's just getting readjusted to having those pads on. And maybe that was part of the problem for the defensive front, is just trying to get back adjusted to, especially maybe for some these guys that are newer to Robert Saleh's system. It's one thing to be working on that get off that he's wanting you to have without pads. Now you throw those pads on, add a little bit more weight to the front of your stance. Maybe that's what it is.
And let's just get to the next point, because I definitely feel the defense, while I think you have to look at the defensive line and just how they just kind of just came out a little bit lackluster, I will give credit where credit's due in the backfield, and give credit to Amani Hooker, because he came out and had a solid day, and he's really trying to show that he still has a lot to offer this team, especially in terms of where he might be looking for a potential extension down the road. So, I mean, Tyler, obviously, he's going to be playing extremely, extremely hard, and exceptionally in this position that he's in. So I think this is a really good day for him to continuing his presence of just showing that he can still be a dominating force in that safety room.
Yeah, for sure. And, it was one of those things coming into camp. Amani Hooker, you see him start out on the PUP list, which he got cleared off of that pretty quickly. But being on that to start out, you kind of raise some questions of, all right, what's going to be the deal with Amani Hooker? Can he is he still going to be that leader in the secondary? Can he still, do it? And then you see him come out now, and even going back to last week, he had some influence on some plays. I think last week at one point he maybe kept Cam from taking a deep shot to Carnell Tate because he was kind of floating over there. But then just to see how lively he was today, because it wasn't just the interception on Cam Ward that would have been a pick six. It was also, Cam completed a pass to Wandale Robinson, and a play where it looked like Wandale might just keep running. Hooker comes up and knocks the ball out. And while Wandale was able to jump back on it, it stopped him where he was. And it's positive to see Amani Hooker coming out and having his presence felt early on in camp, especially, since before camp started, it had that minor little thing going on that had him on the PUP list.
Absolutely. And, looking on the other side of the ball, and, this was definitely a subject that was brought up over the weekend during practice. Will Levis came out and basically said that he felt he was better than just any of the 32 quarterbacks out there. And I kind of felt people were going to take this out of context. It's not, to me, him trying to say that he's better, especially in the situation that he's in right now. I mean, Cam Ward's a starter. That's not going to be debated. It's not even anything to debate. But I see this guy who's just trying to show himself that he still has that right mindset to go into any situation and help contribute to any NFL team if that's something that happens down the line. Obviously, we don't know if a trade's going to happen or if he gets cut before everything, but you got to sell yourself, Tyler. And I think that's the most important thing Will Levis needs to do, not only on the field, but also in front of the camera when reporters are asking him these questions. So I don't have a problem with him answering it that way. I just feel that there's just also a necessary instance to where he has to understand you're really just trying to sell yourself as hard as you can, especially whatever situation arises, that you're going to put yourself in a better situation. So that being said, Tyler, I mean, honestly, we don't know what's going to happen yet with Will Levis, but I can honestly say we know who quarterback 1 and quarterback 2 is going to be. So what do you see in Will Levis's outlook looking like as of right now? I think you're on mute.
Yep, I was. His outlook is he's either going to be cut or traded by the Titans. Like that's I don't see the Titans holding on to 3 quarterbacks. And I want to hit on this. Like you said, I know, which I did a video on this. I like that Will Levis has the confidence in saying the things that he says, or has that confidence in himself. Because you go back a couple of years ago, even before the Titans drafted Cam Ward, and it kind of looked like Levis had lost any confidence that he did have. And so it's good to see, it's good for him to have that back, because I think that's one of the things for an NFL quarterback. In order to have any kind of success, you have to have that confidence in yourself. My biggest thing is I think I would rather him show more in just let his play do the talking for him. Like, he's going to get a chance in preseason. I don't necessarily have a problem with him having that confidence. It's more so right now you're looking like you're going to be the backup to the backup here for the Titans. Like, you're not even in that number 2 spot. You're in that number 3 spot. So to go out and make like the claim that there's not 32 quarterbacks in the league better than you. Like, okay, instead of saying that, just say that you feel confident in your abilities heading into your fourth year, and then go show it on the field when you get your opportunity.
And speaking of opportunities, let's give a tip of the hat to Calvin Ridley. I think he had a solid day today, and he really needed to go out and continue to show that it was worth the Titans to restructure his contract and keep him here potentially for at least this year going forward. So, that being said, I mean, looking at what he contributed, especially with the situation that it's going in this wide receiver room, I'd say this was his best day, Tyler. I mean, especially with a 30-plus yard early catch and, that pretty sweet spin move he had in practice near the goal line situation. So him and Ward definitely still have that connection going. And I think it's vital, especially if the Titans are going to continue to try and find ways for this team to get wins in the regular season. You need experience. And I don't think that's a bad thing to have with Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, it's definitely not a bad thing to have. And like you said, this was, I think, without a doubt, his best day, which, we had limited days of seeing him kind of last week. But the pads go on. I think he only had the 2 catches on the day, but, if this was a game situation and he has a catch for where he's able to run for 30 yards after the catch and then have another one that converts a long third down to get the team inside the 5-yard line, like, I would take that on the day for him in a game. And another thing for me is, you go back to last year and there were times where him and Cam just couldn't really get that connection down. And then even through this offseason, Ridley getting healthy, and you see some of the videos that Cam posts of him and the other receivers and offensive playmakers working out, and you don't see Ridley there. And it's kind of like, man, what's that connection going to look like for them? Are they going to have it down? And then you follow that up with today where it seemed like they were in sync. And that's a positive note. And, who knows if Calvin Ridley will be on this team come week 1, like you would like to think so after the Titans restructured his contract. But, it remains to be seen. But if he is, I definitely don't mind having that veteran presence around. Even today, I know Jim White talked about seeing him talking to Carnell Tate a lot about some things. So having that knowledge that he's passing on to Carnell Tate is valuable.
So we seem to be doing like a zigzag pattern with offense, defense, and we'll keep doing this because it's working out pretty well. So switching back to the defensive side, James Williams has been kind of an enigma going into this season. A lot of people don't even think that he'll make the roster because some just don't feel that he fits Saleh's defensive style. However, it seems very much Robert Saleh is very interested in getting him in this defensive dance because he enjoys the fact that he was a safety converted over to linebacker. So you realistically kind of see him just wanting to get his hands on him, mold him up a little bit. And it's obviously shown, especially in this year of training camp. Already he's shown up and he's lost about 20 pounds to play at the style and, of course, at a weight that Saleh feels that would be more beneficial to him. So what do you take away from all that? I mean, what do you think Robert Saleh is planning on doing in this situation with the young player that we're still trying to figure out?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, it's like you said, it was one of those things where it seemed like James Williams had kind of become an afterthought. Like when you talked about the linebackers, you mentioned 3 right off the bat usually, and that would be Cedric Gray, Cody Barton, and Anthony Hill Jr. But I do feel like you maybe have to throw James Williams up in there because like you mentioned, Robert Saleh, he lacks the fact that Williams used to be a safety, used to be a DB, got converted to that linebacker spot, and now it's more of just having him in that physical shape and really around kind of the weight that they need him at to where he can effectively fly around and make plays when they need him to. And I'm not going to say that because I could be speaking wrong, and I meant to look this up before the show, but I feel like wasn't Fred Warner one of those guys that kind of that converted over?
I couldn't give a full answer on that, to be honest. But if that's the case, then it wouldn't surprise me if that's what he's doing.
Yeah, I'm going to look it up.
That's not trying to say, Williams is going to be a Fred Warner type of player or even have that kind of just skill set. I just feel that Saleh's looking at him and just seeing a guy with versatility right there, because this defense thrives on linebackers that can drop into coverage.
Yeah, so, looking it up, he didn't place Fred Warner didn't play safety as like his primary position. He played like a hybrid linebacker and safety role. And like you said, by no means am I saying that James Williams is going to be like Fred Warner, but I think that Saleh lacks that hybrid style. Even if it's a guy that he may not be starting him right away, a guy that he can kind of plug and play in those moments, he lacks having that versatility at that linebacker spot.
And here's the final player that I think we'll finish on, because I don't think anybody right now has this much momentum going into the Titans camp right now than this guy. We don't know what 2026 is going to hold for him, but as of right now, this is probably one of the craziest position battles that might happen on the offensive side of the ball. Tyler, Alec Iamaner, I feel like, is really trying to put a stamp on him getting more touches this season. And I have no doubt that if he can continue to perform on the practice field like he has, with all the work that he's put in physically and mentally, apparently, I really feel like that people should be paying attention to Alec Iamaner, not only just on our side, but potentially nationally. And you can call me crazy for saying this, but I genuinely feel like he's going to be a hidden gem that I think a lot of people are going to be talking about. But I honestly feel like he really shouldn't be that big a surprise to anybody that has evaluated him and had just the sense of what he can be. I really feel like he could be something special with this offense.
I think so too. And like you said, for one, just the work that he put in through this off season. And I mean, the guy looks chiseled right now. Like, he's obviously in the best shape of his life. And, he did what he had to do throughout the off season to get his body into the shape that he needs to potentially take that next step this year. Like last year, we've talked about this several times. I've mentioned it several times. Him and Chim DK were kind of thrown to the wolves because they had to be forced into the starting roles that I don't think was necessarily the intention when they first got drafted for last year. But they got that experience, and now Alec is building off of that experience, and it doesn't matter if it's first team, second team, what quarterback's back there. He's going up and making plays for these quarterbacks. And it doesn't matter what defensive back is on him, whether it's Cordell Flott, Alontae Taylor. Let's see, who was the other one? Micah Robinson, doesn't matter who it is, he's giving everybody the smoke right now. Going up over them, mossing them, outrunning them, and he's making waves. And honestly, like when you think of this Titans offense, you think at wide receiver, they signed Wan'Dale Robinson to the deal that they did. So you know he's going to get the slot work. You draft Carnell Tate 4th overall. You know he's going to get his work. So then it comes to like that third wide receiver. Who is going to be next in line for targets? And it seems like right now, Alec Iomanner is doing everything he can to give Calvin Ridley a run for his money and being like, nope, I'm going to be this third guy here. Like, love our receiver room, but I want to be that guy right there. And another thing, he's going up and making these strong hand catches too. You know, it's not like he's just like no, he's attacking the ball. And it's just seeing this kind of second year leap, and even last week when he was kind of making some of these plays, I was like, okay, when the pads come on, let's see if he can keep this up. And today, he was still out there making plays. Even when he wasn't catching the ball, he was getting a DPI called on Robinson. So definitely a guy that if he continues on this path that he's on, then yeah, you could start seeing nationally people paying more attention to Alec Iomanner.
And you know I'm going to ask you a tough question because I always do. If Iomanner continues to have the camp he's having and even excels, let's say he puts up some pretty big numbers within the 3 preseason games, does Calvin Ridley become expendable then to trade to a wide receiver needy team? Do you feel confident in sliding him into that position?
I believe so. Yeah. Unless the Titans are just absolutely wanting to just hang on to Ridley to have him as like that veteran guy. I think if Alec keeps going on the path that he's going on and strings together a good preseason, a good rest of training camp, then yes, Calvin Ridley becomes a guy that you can look to trade away to a wide receiver needy team. Because, Alec can step in and fill that role.
So I'm going to leave with this thought. And I think this is the most important thing of day one practice in pads. Don't take anything too serious that anybody's going to tell you right now. Whether it was a good day, whether it's a bad day, it's day one. We just know what happened, and it's not anything solid enough to make any kind of evaluation on. Film has to be watched. Corrections need to be made. That's the important thing going forward. I can hype up anybody or I can down anybody within any context of how this will go or how this practice went. But at the end of the day, it's just one padded practice. It does not make long-term success. It does not make long-term failure. So anybody trying to blow it up on any circumstantial way, just don't eat the bait. That's all I'm saying. What you need to be paying attention to, and is the most important thing, is continual success each day. Are the things that need to be done being done properly, and are they being done at the way to build a successful team long term? Are the plays being run exactly the way they need to be run? Are the players executing the way they need to execute? Is the play calls being played efficiently and not trying to get called on a penalty or anything like that? Are mistakes being made continually? That needs to be evaluated as well. I don't care if Cam Ward throws 2 interceptions in the first day of padded practice. Don't sell me that narrative, and I know there's going to be some that will. I'm not biting your bait. I don't do that. I know the bigger perspective going on. And I'm selling that perspective to you as well, because you're a smart audience. I don't have to tell you that, but I have to encourage you because that's how I roll. So don't eat the bait on day one. Let's build some days and see where we can go. Friday will be the blue and white scrimmage. That's where my interest is going to be. That's what I want to see. It's what we need to do within the following week, because that is going to be the most important week, because joint practices are going to be starting with the 49ers, and we need to measure ourselves with a team that knows how to be successful. So Cam Ward's 2 interceptions do not interest me in the least bit, and it shouldn't interest you. No matter how many times somebody's going to come and give you some clickbait on how you should be interested. We're fine. Don't bite the bait. Continual success is what you need to look for in this camp. Do the little things right. Fix the things that need to be corrected. We'll go from there. I mean, I think that's a fair, astute observation, Tyler. I don't want people to just start losing their minds because our quarterback's making mistakes. I'd rather him make his mistakes and learn from them. And if he's learning from them, then what's the problem? You're allowed to make mistakes. Just learn from them. And with that being said, let's go ahead and take our first break. And when we come back, we're going to get serious and have a serious discussion about a question Paul KUHARSKY asked on last Wednesday's press conference. And I think it's something that needs to be addressed in a better context. So quick 30 seconds, and we'll be right back after this.
You're watching the Power Hour with your hosts, Michael Bishop and Tyler Staggs.
The Power Hour is on the air. Live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and as always, thank you for joining us on this fine Monday evening. We love when you guys show up and show out for us, and we appreciate everything that you do to continue to make this show a raging success, not only on the Titan Upload Network, but of course, right here on your screen. So we always want to show up for you every Monday and give you our best, because that's what we're going to do. No substitutions. And of course, guys, if you love the show, help it grow. Follow us on all our social media platforms at the Power Hour 615 and of course at the Titan Upload Network, because we're going to give you the best Tennessee Titans and NFL content we can give you each week, because the good stuff is coming. And I mean, you can't ask for anything better, Tyler. We're nearly a week away from football. I'm not going to say real football, but it's football. And that's not a knock on the preseason. I'm just saying we know what a preseason is and who the preseason's for, so it's fine. But it's football nonetheless. I tell you what, this offseason flew by. I mean, wouldn't you say this is the quickest offseason you and I have endured in our 4th year of doing the show?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I don't know. I feel like the last couple of off seasons, just like we're dragging by. This one hardly feels like it happened.
I mean, we're just getting too good at the off-season stuff. I'm being honest. I don't think anybody can just do off-season stuff like you and I do And I mean, I've always said the easiest thing in the world, if you're doing a show, is regular season stuff because all you have to do is recap. That's not a knock on anybody that does that. It's its own challenge, and believe me, the content has to be made. But keeping you guys' interest, especially in the off season, is definitely the hardest thing in the world. But we do it pretty good.
That we do.
I'm going to pat ourselves on the back for that. So, regardless, I definitely feel that just another fast off season, which is great, means just real football we get to talk about. All right. So getting into our next segment, I think it's time we have a serious discussion about this. And we've done shows like this before in the past, and I think there's a lot of things that need to be touched on, especially touchy subjects that I think a lot of people are uncomfortable to talk about, especially in the scope of the NFL and a greater range of things. But I think it's important to discuss them because realistically, it's a major problem in the NFL, and it generally just comes and goes as quickly as it arises. So let's set the scene from last week. Titans are doing their open presser. Mike Bergonzi, Robert Saleh are there answering opening questions basically before training camp kicks off. And of course, Paul KUHARSKY comes on there and asks this question and basically sets up the whole narrative for the show tonight. So I'll play it in whole, then we'll discuss.
I know you organizationally paid tribute to Chris Johnson in the last day or two. With him, with Tim Shaw, and then with people who have already suffered worse fates. Frank Wycheck had bad CTE. There are another 10 guys who've played for this franchise in the last 30 years who died prematurely, some presumably from football-related causes. I wonder if you both could talk personally about the idea. Yes, it's the job, but you're drafting and signing guys, you're sending guys out to quote-unquote battle who may suffer things in the course of their work that may lead to things like Chris is suffering now, and how that makes you feel.
That's a tough one, Paul, because, empathetically, I think we're all kind of sacrificing something, whether you're a coach, the GM, whether it's stress related, physically related. We do get compensated handsomely. I'm not going to pretend that, but we're also sacrificing significantly more than I think people realize, and that's all the way top down. And players, obviously, with their bodies and how they operate, and so empathetically throughout the organization, we all understand what we sign up for. When you hear players talking about putting their bodies on the line, they're operating at 20 miles an hour. If you think about their head-on collision, 20 miles an hour, 40 times a game, it's a car accident. And they they're putting their bodies on the line. They're sacrificing a lot. Coaches are sacrificing a lot. GM and his scouts are sacrificing a lot. And so to answer your question, it's a empathetic understanding of what we're all kind of sacrificing for one another, and I think that's what makes the locker room such a cool bond. The NFL locker room is unique in the sense that every race, religion, where you were raised, how you were raised, the environment you were raised in, everyone's different, but everyone's accepted. And because of it, like I said, it is a very, very special bond that I think happens in a football locker room. And it's because of what the question you just asked.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's the game's been around for 100 years. It's a violent game, but I think the league has been doing everything that they can possible in terms of just improving the safety of the game as much as you can. And you certainly have empathy for people that do struggle after playing the game, but it is a sacrifice. They have to go out there, and at the end of the day, it is a tough, physical, violent game. But like I said, I think the league has done a tremendous job in terms of, even since I've been in the league, just in terms of just safety precautions and with players.
Now, Tyler, obviously, this is a very hard question to answer because there's a lot of parts to it, especially in terms to try and properly answer, the very setup of what Paul's trying to ask. And I think the biggest thing is it's trying to give understanding and trying to give more just of a perspective of how they see this as where players continually put their bodies on the line for the game that they play. And it's a game that we all love. And of course, they love it. And it's those sacrifices that, unfortunately, for some players, turn into something just unfortunate and just unthinkable at times. So, give me your take on the whole thing because I want to hear what you have to say, and then I'll come back and say what I have to say.
Yeah. So first thing I want to say is this was a question that, like, I was trying to watch the press conference live and obviously, or listen to it at least. I was at work though, so I kind of had to jump in and out. So I hadn't fully like heard this question until me and you got to talking about doing the show on this topic. And I had saw where people were kind of downing PK for this question. But I honestly think that it's a fair question from PK in this moment, especially, given the circumstances of Chris Johnson's ALS diagnosis. And, it's with that, it was even more of a reason to kind of ask this question and bring it to light even more. So, I'm not going to hate on PK for asking this question. I think it was a good question. And if people step back and really analyze the entire situation, I think they could see that, it was a fair question by him because essentially he's asking Mike Bergonzi, who's the GM and the head coach, these guys that you're bringing in, every day you're essentially asking them to put their body and mind on the line for this game that, yes, they love, you love, but knowing these risks, how does it make you feel? And like you said, obviously, me and you doing this show, we go through the off season where there's not a lot to talk about. Like, you truly have to love this game and love watching this game to do what we do. But you also have to acknowledge that, these are other human beings playing this game. Yes, and Robert Saleh mentioned this. They get compensated very, very well. But most of the times, the ones that get compensated like extremely well are more, it's your top guys. And even these guys lower on the roster or practice squad, while they may make more than me or you, they're still out here going through these collisions and everything. And it's not like they're getting these higher dollar contracts. And then it also comes back to how much is the NFL really doing for these guys after they're out of the league to make sure that they're still taken care of mentally, physically. I think that's been some discussions before. So for me, my thoughts on it is it can be easy for us as fans to get wrapped up and not necessarily care as much about these risks that these athletes really have to potentially face just in everyday moments when we're looking at it, just because we're wrapped up and enjoying the sport and watching them out there. And most of the time it doesn't really sink in for us as much until something actually happens or comes about, like Chris Johnson's ALS diagnosis. You go back a couple of years ago, what happened to DeMar Hamlin out on the field? Like, you think about how much that kind of made people stop in the moment and think about it. But it's not something that we're constantly thinking about while we're watching the game. But it's something that doesn't need to be forgotten about just because we're not thinking it every moment.
And all those are great points. I mean, in retrospect, just with the Chris Johnson announcement, I'm glad it brought people together and the best of people out to help and show awareness and just fellowship in a bad situation that no one saw coming. I want to make that crystal clear here. I love the fact that as a fan base and as just individuals, we could unite on just that situation and try and make some good and to make awareness here. But let me counter with this. And I want to say this as carefully as I can because I don't want to upset anybody, but I want to be honest too. I hate that it took this to make it happen. I hate the fact that we're having to do this because it happened, because of a situation that we are still learning a lot about. And it's been around for a long time, and we know so little about how it happens. So to me, Paul's question, I think, is a fair question to ask, especially when you just line everything up, not only in the situation of how things are perceived in the discussion point of what's going on in the NFL, but how broad it is that I don't think we understand as well when we add CTE cases in. Let me tell you this, Tyler. From a Boston University study with the CTE Center, 345 posthumous diagnoses. That's 345 out of 376 deceased former NFL players that they studied. A vast majority of their brain donations and diagnoses occurred after the center's founding in the late 2000s. And because CTE being verified in living can't be verified in living patients, researchers in Mass General surveyed nearly 2,000 former players, and they found roughly 1 in 3 living former players believe that they suffer from the condition due to cognitive and mood symptoms. So 1 in 3 out of 2,000 former players, that's 34%. Looking at ALS cases, from a study in 1960 through 2019, 19,423 NFL players that had debuted between that timeline, 38 players were diagnosed with ALS within that tracked period. And a follow-up study was released by the Concussion and CTE Foundation, highlighted that 10 players since 1960 have died from ALS before the age of 50. And with public diagnoses, there's only been Steve Gleason, Tim Green, Dwight Clark, and Chris Johnson that have come out publicly with their diagnosis. And there may still be players that we don't know about that are living with that. So obviously with both, it's a major issue in the league. And yes, They're compensated for what they do. But money or a monetary situation does not give back your motor functions or your mind, or even more important, time. There's plenty of dangerous jobs out there. And of course, some don't get that kind of compensation as well. But I'm not here to make that discussion. My discussion here is that this is a problem in the league, and it needs to continually be something that the league progresses forward in order to make it better. Now, will it totally eradicate the situations that it makes? It's hard to say. You invest money into safety, and you invest time to try and keep these players protected the best that you can. At the end of the day, you hope that those numbers will drastically drop. And while 38 cases throughout 1916, 2019 don't seem like a lot, that's a lot, especially for one sport.
Well, and when you add in the fact too, Michael, that, like you said, 10 former NFL players who died from ALS before the age of 50, just to put that into even more perspective, that's a rate that's calculated to be 42 times higher than it expected for men under 50 in the general public. And NFL players or like for former players, they're 4 times more likely to die from ALS than the general population. So, it's like you said, and we're not, obviously there are other jobs throughout the world that come with their own risk, and it's not to take away from those risks, but obviously here talking just about professional football, like while these guys are compensated, while they know the potential risk, I still go back to what I mentioned earlier in the fact of you have to have, even as a fan, you have to factor in that human element, and that these are other human beings that even though they know the risk, for one, they're taking that risk for not only their love for the game, but to entertain us playing the game that they love. And it's not something that just needs to be swept under the rug.
Exactly. I mean, no amount of challenges or money donated or, honors that are going to be given can make up for the fact that it's the loss of something that you're never going to be able to get back and will continue to decline and decline until you can't do anything about it. As I said, it's not a knock on people that are trying to make awareness and trying to help the cause. That's important. We want to eradicate ALS. We want to figure out how we can battle CTE and eventually treat both of them and make them a thing of the past. But at some point within the game and the game that we love, it's important that we continue to find ways to progress these studies and to find ways to make the game safer, especially for future generations that want to play, because we don't want this thing to become something that becomes rampant. even more than it is. And it's already too rampant. And with that being said, we'll take our final break. And when we come back, we love you, we mean it, but it's time to close up shop and send you back out into the world.
You're watching the Power Hour with your hosts, Michael Bishop and Tyler Staggs.
The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and as always, thank you for joining us on this fine Monday evening. Guys, once again, you showed up, you showed out, and you brought the energy, and you put up a good show for us to give you a good show, and we can't show our appreciation as more as we could, so round of applause for you guys. And don't forget, sharing is caring. Make sure you share out the show. Help build up the algorithm so we can continue to give you good Tennessee Titans and NFL coverage as the season progresses, because we got a lot to talk about in this regular season when it kicks off. And I mean, as I said, we are a week away from preseason football, and it'll be Friday when the Titans kick off the white and blue scrimmage. So really excited to see how that plays out. And I mean, obviously Tyler and I are ready. We're matching twinsies, so we're ready to go. All right, guys, we love you. We mean it, but we got to get you back out in the real world. So let's hit you with the last segment. Tyler, let's hit that damn theme music.
Let's do
Closing time.
Good night, losers.
And to end it out, we'll send you out on a high note. These are not the real ones, by the way. I'm just letting you all know. I'm not leaking anything. Please don't do that. They're not the real ones.
He's
These are
doing
just-
it. He's leaking it.
I promise you, these are not the real ones. This is just something that somebody came up with, and I think it's going to be close to what they might be. But regardless, the NFL Rivalries series will drop August 25th. So if you're a fan of the NFC North or the AFC South, you are getting some new threads August 25th. So, Tyler, I know there's been a lot of really good designs out there. I like this one, so I kind of felt it was front and center. And we've definitely seen some hints that what they might look like, especially with the Nike Air Max shoe that dropped. So I think that number style is probably going to be what it is, and I'm fine with that. But I mean, just the whole layout, I think this is probably the closest thing to what I think that these are going to look like. Maybe some changes on the sleeves, maybe not the stars. I think they stick with the guitar strings because that's the look they want to go with. But I think this is close.
Well, I think the guitar strings might be a good shout, since it, like having the Music City, like if it were to have Music City on the front, the guitar strings might be a shout there. But I could also see the stars being, a way they want to go. And look, either way, I'm excited for these rivalry uniforms to come out. I'm going to need my boss to up my pay, because I'm still needing to get the new, one of each of the new jerseys, and then these rivalries coming out. I need to be able to get it too. The Titans are trying to hurt my pocketbook right now. But
that's what I said. It's frustrating the fact that they released these when everybody's trying to pinch pennies at this point, and everything's expensive. So it's frustrating. I'm happy they're out and the stuff looks good. And of course, obviously we've gotten a few new things, which is fine, but trying to upgrade the wardrobe, and it's not cheap, y'all. You're not helping us.
Exactly.
But I definitely think the alternate logo on the helmet's going to look really nice. And I mean, it's not, it probably won't be, But I just don't think you make an alternate logo unless you're going to use it on something. And I mean, why not get it on a helmet? I mean, that's a lot of interesting sales right there. And I mean, if you're a mini helmet collector, I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I want to say this too. I think I've been kind of back and forth on the alternate logo. Like, overall I do like it, but having it on the like navy, I think sells it to me a lot more. Like on the helmet there, the navy, it being the navy helmet, I feel like that secondary logo looks so much better.
If they came out with a hat like that, I would buy that today. That's
Yeah.
how much I love the navy just on, the Titans blue. I don't think navy's ever going to go away, and it shouldn't. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with the Titans blue color. It's going to be everything going forward. But this I like. I like everything about it. I love the Music City. Hopefully we get that. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but regardless, I think it's going to be a big seller. And I'm really interested to see how everything else looks for every other team that's going to be in a rivalry series. So I've seen some wild ones, and I mean, they've definitely not disappointed. And of course, before we go, obviously Houston's definitely got some intrigue going, especially since we've seen their colorway leak. So I'm kind of sitting there like, this is going to go either one or two ways, and I don't know how it's going to go. But if they're going to use the colors I think they're going to use,
I haven't seen those leaks yet, so I need to look that up.
They are all over Twitter. I promise you, you can't miss them. But I'll tell you what, we appreciate you guys for showing up for us once again. So thank you for watching the Power Hour tonight. One more round of applause before we get out of here. And don't forget, guys, before you get out of here, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and ring the bell for more notifications on our YouTube page. And, of course, check us out on all our social media platforms at the Titan Upload Network and the Power Hour. And, guys, big news. Roundtable is back tomorrow night. I'm looking forward to be hanging out with my guys. All the representatives of the AFC South. We are going to be busy this season, so I'm pulling double duty once again. So I got Monday, I got Tuesday, but football is going to be going strong as we have the blue and white game Friday, and then next week, the real fun begins. So don't go anywhere, and I promise you, it's going to be a great season once we get there. So hoping you have a great week. We will be back next Monday. Tyler, your final thought before we're out of here.
Final thought. Don't let early training camp interceptions scare you. It's a learning moment. Even a talented quarterback like Aaron Rodgers may not like what he personally says or anything, but can't deny that he's one of the most talented quarterbacks to ever play in the NFL. He even talks about how it's good to make mistakes in training camp. So take that how you will.
I think there's only one way to take it, with a grain of salt. I mean, it's a long, long training camp before we get to the regular season. Trust me. Sometimes this month drags on, but you're kind of glad it drags because it gives you a chance to breathe and really just appreciate what's going to be coming down the road. So real football is going to be coming very soon, but preseason football is only a week away. So just hang tight. All right, guys, we're out of here. We will be back next Monday and have another great show lined up for you. So enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy training camp. We'll be back next Monday to talk more about it. So for Tyler Staggs, I'm Michael Bishop at the Power Hour. And as always, take care and tighten up.
Tighten up.
watching the Titan Upload Network.